Hello, everyone. We're back with Ken Dombrowski, Executive Life Coach and Master Hypnotist. And today I want to talk about more on the topic of kids and, developing different diagnoses and specifically how the sibling dynamic can affect ADHD.
Well, this is all theoretical, of course, based on our, thousands of client history and people that I work with. Come up with my own working theories, I guess you might say. And I've come to identify there is a sibling dynamic that I've noticed, some different patterns. And to say, that this is how or can be contributing towards development of ADD or ADHD, of course, could be a lot of pushback from the psychological community, but we're going to leave that aside for right now. And this is, again, all theoretical. So we can probably agree that some people are born with it and some people develop it. Same is in the psychological community about bipolar or schizoaffective disorder. A lot of different disorders. Some of them you're born with and some you develop along the way through environment. Well, we look at the similar possibilities with ADHD. So if someone has two siblings, two children in a family, probably going to be more likely that the older of those two siblings is going to be the one to develop ADHD as a coping mechanism for their life that they're in with this younger sibling. And we look at that, why? What happened? Why would that be? Well, we have to appreciate that, let's say, though, there's just a normal 2-year gap between kids. That seems to be kind of common. For the first 2 years of that older child's life, 100% of mom and dad's love, caring, affection, nurturing, attention, 100% of it was poured into that one child. And that was their entire existence. That's the world that child knew. And then suddenly, one day, the parents bring a new baby home from the hospital. Well, in that moment, the 2-year-old can easily identify very quickly where all of my attention went. It's now going to that baby. Mm-hmm. That baby's getting what I used to get. So it can be a matter of very quickly, a matter of a couple of days, that child knows who to blame. And now it also knows who it's in competition with.
Right.
So, and you can play that out, be very simple, like a 2-year-old child and be like, oh, mom, I'm hungry. Can I have something to eat? And mom can say, oh, well, not right now. I'm feeding the baby.
Right.
Oh, that's a clue to that kid that now that baby's more important than I am. Anything that a child would normally expect has now been disrupted, and it's all because of that younger sibling. So their mind very quickly goes into survival mode, which they're pretty much already in that age, subconsciously speaking. Mm-hmm. So now what can I do? No, it's not a conscious diabolical scheme. No. Subconscious just starts maybe getting into trouble or having a difficulty with their temperament or can't pay attention, can't focus on stuff. So that's kind of the dynamic that we see if there's 2 kids in the family. And then if you have multiple children, 3 or more, what you're looking at there is chances are the youngest is going to be the one to have the ADHD issue because they're going to feel left out all the time. They're the youngest of this huge crowd. All these older siblings don't give a crap about you. Your parents are trying to divide their attention amongst all these kids, and the younger one just feels left out a lot. They feel smaller and weaker, left out. Their voice doesn't get heard. So ADHD is a great way to resolve that. So now I'm going to make you give me attention because there's something wrong with me. So now I get to go to doctor appointments and therapy appointments and things like that. So you can see that easily developing in the youngest sibling. And of course, the more that they get rewarded with those rewards and behaviors, the more they're going to do it.
Right.
So,
yeah, because it's funny because when you have just 2, the older child is trying to be the first to achieve something so they can grab some of that attention back. And then when you get to 3, 4, 5 kids, the youngest one is just trying to do anything they possibly can to get attention, because chances are that thing was already achieved 1 to 4 times. You know, it's no longer special. It's no longer interesting. It's like, you know, the mom when she's having the kids in the first place. People don't care about baby shower number 3.
No.
They don't care about baby shower number 4. So it's kind of just like, even the attention, if you want to take it that far back, which we do, in the womb, it's not the same. Because we've been here, we've done this, we've seen you do it, you know? So it kind of changes the dynamic completely. So it's funny how it switches that way. But right before we started this video, this topic came up because I was talking about the people I know with ADHD and where they align in their family tree. And it was exactly along the lines of what we were talking about. Yeah. So even though this may not necessarily be considered a scientific or psychological opinion, we can prove it with our own lives, which I think is very important, because what else are we supposed to pull from?
There you go. I like to add one more element to it, though. It's very fascinating, this stuff. I mean, I think I've came up with this. I'm not sure. I didn't learn it anywhere. This is all, again, my theory on how it works. Two children. And the first child, as I said earlier, gets 100% of a mom and dad's love, affection, caring, nurturing, everything. They get all that. One day that changes. So you think simple mathematics says that your parents are now dividing it 50-50. That child still gets half of what they were getting, and the other half goes to the baby. And that's just not the way it works, because anyone who's ever had a baby, you know, that baby needs more of your time and attention to keep it alive. Right. So that day, that child literally loses about 80% of all the love, care, affection, attention, nurturing that they were getting just literally yesterday. Now, there are going to be a lot of parents who are going to say, oh, no, I didn't. I make sure I pay extra attention to my child and make sure they feel special. I'm glad you do that. But there's still going to be a noticeable loss to that child. Now let's take a look at the other direction. We talked about multiple children family. The youngest is never, ever going to get 100% of mom and dad's love, caring, and affection and attention. He or she has to, if they have 5 siblings, they have to share it with the other 5 siblings. So even when the day they were brought home from the hospital, they never even, forget about 100%, they didn't even get the 80%. They're having to struggle with maybe 40 or 50%, because mom and dad still have all these other children they have to care for. So not only is the 5th kid not special, as the point you were making, it's also at a huge deficit. Now, I like to look at this from a standpoint of money. So it's more relatable. Imagine what your life, you right there watching this video, if suddenly one day 80% of your income was gone, 80% of your assets were gone, 80% of your savings account and retirement account evaporated. See how devastating that would feel? Now multiply that times 100, because that's all that this child knows is mom and dad's love, caring, affection, and attention. That's their currency. That's their entire world. They don't have anything outside of that. So it's like literally 100 times more devastating than if you lost 80%. So we look at that from these different perspectives, start going, oh, okay, now I understand. No longer is this person just an asshole or a bitch. It's not that at all. They were created simply by circumstantial design, and no one ever intended this. That's the thing. People get married, they have children, they think it's just going to be this big, loving, happy family type thing, and it doesn't always work that way for everybody.
Yeah, I think for sure the point of it's not anybody's fault. People want more than one kid. Most people have more than one kid. There's nothing wrong with it. No one's going in the intent like, oh, I want this first child to feel absolutely 100% neglected because we have the ability to have another child. It really shouldn't. It shouldn't do what it does, because nothing is meant to be malicious, but that just doesn't change the way that your emotions are going to play out regardless, especially when you're a kid and all you have is your emotions.
That's all you have. There's nothing outside of your home that you live in. That's everything is within those walls. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting topic, and I think the 80%, 20% from 100% makes total sense because I'm just a dog mom, and my dog freaks out anytime there's another dog I'm giving attention to because he physically can't handle the idea of my attention lessening for him. So it's not like you can't see it in multiple different ways. You can see it in friendships. You can see it in so many different aspects of life. But specifically in developing ADHD in children, it makes total sense.
That's a really great way to put it. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.